Sabdo Palon, Tantra, Kejawen, Islam and Hegemony. Welcome. I was about to say I recently came across the legend of Sabdo Palon, but actually, as you'll tell from when you listen to the description, it's something that I've known about elements of it for a long, long time. It's just that it's never been put together so clearly for me, and it was put together clearly in a vlog by Keluarga Arif Com ID. And unashamedly, I borrow extensively from his vlog, although I'm a little less moralistic than he is about Tantra. And I think this explains so many of the issues and tensions I've been attempting to tease out regarding Kejawen and Islam. Indeed, it contains many of the events, legends and people that I've discussed many times before. But maybe the most important element of this legend is that it is the basis of Parcano, and indeed my belief that natural disasters are a punishment for greed and intolerance. Or more specifically, I see it as rebalancing nature, something that many people would describe as karma. Mount Tidar, Gunung, or mount. I should probably use the word hill in this particular case, because it's a hill just above Magelang, which is just to the north of Jogja, Yogyakarta. And this is where I suppose the legend, the story begins. It's not that far from Candi, Borobodur and Gunung Merapi, which is a very active volcano in the area, that we can see from our home in Gunung Tidar, although we're not ever in any danger from, or immediate danger from it. Gunung Tidar contains the graves of many Chinese Indonesians, or their ancient graves, I should say. Indeed, along the road from Jogja to Magelang, one can see such cemeteries built on the hillsides, which is quite unusual for Indonesia because of the Chinese tend to be urban dwellers. So you don't often see Chinese cemeteries in the countryside. The name Tidar is said to come from Mati and Modar, Mati which means to die. So there is a belief that any outsider who sets foot on Java will be met with death or bad luck. Although another interpretation is that the Javanese themselves will never die. This is because Java itself is believed to be a ground anchor, a link between the underworld and the above world, or a sinister land if you like. People who come to Java are disturbed by the spirits who look after maybe or live on the island. So successive waves of people who visit the island have either died on Java or returned home very troubled. Now you may say this, well, this is incredible, it's just a legend, but I've got to say that's been my experience. So many Westerners who've come to Java for any length of time, I'm not talking about those who come to work for a year or two, but so many Westerners who've ventured here have either ended up dying here, often prematurely, or if they've returned home broken people. Certainly Gunung Tidar is seen as a haunted place. There's a myth of Muslims dying in Java troubled the Ottoman Sultan Muhammad I. He's said to have sent 4,000 Muslim families to Java, followed by another 2,000, but all but 200 died, who managed to return to the Ottoman Empire to attest to what has happened. Now, as I say, it's believed to be to do with the paranormal and spiritual things, but we do have to understand this was a time of great conflict, with the time of the breakup of the Majapahit Empire. So Sultan Muhammad sent 9 ulama, somewhere around 1404 AD, although other parts of the legend suggest it could be a little bit later. Each had a specific expertise which would be valuable to the people of Java, and they were told to engage in trade and not violence towards the Javanese. Indeed, this was the basis of them introducing Islam to Java. Gunung Tidar also contains, and it's a little higher up than the Chinese graves, the grave of Sheikh Subakir, along with other early Islamic teachers, and allegedly that of Semar. Now, I've not mentioned this before when I've spoken of Semar because of, I do consider him to be a legend. You know, not a real person, so therefore wouldn't have a grave. Indeed, Sheikh Subakir was prior to most of the Walisongo, who were accredited with bringing Islam to Java, so it predates what is normally seen as the birth of Islam in Java, although there are records that show it perhaps going back even further than Sheikh Subakir. Some people say his uncle was Sunan Gresik, one of the Walisongo, but it's more likely that Sunan Gresik simply wrote about him. So it's seen as where Islam merges with Javanese tradition. Prior to Sunan Kalijaga's success in actually achieving this merger, one of the Illuminana was Sheikh Tuban Ali bin Sheikh Bahia, and he's what's known in Java as Sheikh Subakir. Sheikh Subakir came from Loristan province in Persia, of course now Iran, and Gunung Tidar is said to be the location of an agreement between Sheikh Subakir and Sabdo Palon. Sheikh Subakir buried a black stone on Gunung Tidar, known as Raja Ali Kalachakra. The location is now marked by a monument, or tugu. Now, there's a tugu that I've shown on my vlogs, a very famous tugu, a golden one, in Jogja, close to the hotel where I stay. This is a little bit smaller, but it's nevertheless the monument. The stone itself is seen as nailing Java to the earth so that it could be peaceful, although alternative versions claim that this was planted by the gods prior to Sheikh Subakir. I use the word gods there, and I think I ought to use the word deities, because there is limited evidence that the Javanese believed in a pantheon of gods, even when they were Hindus, or they believed in a pantheon of deities for sure, but they always, I think, believed in a single creator. Indeed, this appears to be the basis that Gunung Tidar anchors Java to the ground. It's also claimed that it's in the middle of the island of Java, which if you look on a map, it is just about right. It's said that after burying this stone, the earth shook, there was lightning and a strong wind, and this released the jinn and the other spirits on Gunung Tidar. The spirits were annoyed by Sheikh Sabakir for disturbing them, but realised they had little power against that of Islam. Now, you may recall that I've often said that Islam became accepted by the rulers of Java because its magic was shown to be more powerful than that of the Hindu Buddhist traditions. Some of these spirits dispersed to places like Gunung Merapi. Remember, it's an active volcano, so people say that when it explodes, it's the spirits being unpleased. It's forbidden to build a well on Gunung Tidar, and because there's a very large spring there, but it's said that if you make the wrong hole, it can result in a large flood that can drown the population of Java. Semar. One of the spirits said to be disturbed by Sheikh Subakir was believed to be Semar, the most powerful of the spirits on Gunung Tidar. Semar, or Batara Ismaya, Batara Isara, Judara Punta Prasata Semar, is the name of a character, major role in the clowns of Javanese wayang. And I've spoken about him many times, even made a vlog about him. But in that vlog, as I say, I've not mentioned this particular legend. Somewhat interchangeable with Semar is the tale of Sabdo Palon. Sabdo Palon fought with Sheikh Subakir on Gunung Tidar for 40 days and 40 nights. The agreement is that 9 ulama could preach Islam in Java, but must never use force. And of course, this is still the source of some confusion. When I debate on this channel, particularly with Indian Hindus, and indeed many Christians, who refuse to believe that Indonesia became Muslim without any real bloodshed. Now, of course, you can point to bloodshed, but by and large, Indonesia became Islamic or Muslim without conquering. My wife indeed believes that Semar is a message for the Javanese not to forsake its original Buddhist teachings, and I'll come back to that. Furthermore, it was said that the rulers of Java could convert to Islam, providing they didn't forsake their culture, although the first rulers must come from mixed parentage, i.e. Muslim and Hindu/Buddhist. So this has led to what many Muslims describe as, I think somewhat derogatorily, as folk Islam of Indonesia, even that as a result we're not real Muslims. Certainly Islam in Java is very syncretic, especially Kejawen. The final condition was that the people of Java are not Arabs, nor ever should they be. Although there is Arab blood within the population, probably less than 1%, but there is. They must be allowed to continue with their rice culture. And I interpret this last part of the bargain that Islam should develop in Java without interference from the Middle East. Now, this is clearly contentious at the moment, given that so many Arabs describe Islam in Indonesia as folk Islam, and that the Indonesian government itself has looked towards what they call Islam Nusantara, in other words, the form of Islam that developed in Indonesia, as, if you like, a backstop to the more strident Islam found in the Middle East. It was said that if the agreement was broken, then after 500 years there will be problems which will drive Islam out of Java. To mark this agreement, Sheikh Subakir buried a spear, the tombak of Kaya Panjan, in Gunung Tidar, although another version claims that this was planted by his follower Kaya Panjang, hence the name. But is Sabdo Palon really Semar? Well, at best it's a reincarnation, or a person who has been possessed by Semar. Again, you might find this incredible, but when my wife, was suffering from the effects of black magic, she had indeed been purposely possessed by the spirit of Semar, but it needed to be removed in order from her to recover from the magic, because that had been used to get the magic into her. Another part of the legend is that Sabdo Palon is a legendary figure who is considered a priest and advisor to Brawijaya V, the last Buddhist ruler of the Majapahit kingdom in Java. It's said that he refused to accept Sunan Kalijaga and sought refuge in the east. This is possibly Banyuwangi, which is still something of a centre of Hindu beliefs, but would return in 500 years if greed and corruption had taken over Java. The cleansing of Java of Islam and replacing the corrupt government with a righteous one Despite being interpreted as predicting natural disasters in Indonesia, it really suggests that the Javanese people will be liberated and freed to live in harmony. Although, of course, such major changes could be preceded by social unrest. Nevertheless, there is a fair bit of evidence that I'll talk on later that this could be a 19th century creation. Sabdo Palon is often associated with yet another character, Nyayana Aganengong, a fellow advisor to Bratajaya V, although it's not clear if these two figures are the same person or different, not least as both are really honorific titles. Some would argue that both depictions of two different personalities within one character, with Sabdo Palon reminding us to seek truth, and Nyayana to speak the truth, especially for rulers, the imperative being to speak the truth. Sabdo Palon Nagi Prestasi. Even today in Indonesia, when a natural disaster occurs, it's claimed to be a result of the legacy of this agreement with Sabdo Palon. Indeed, the recent health crisis has been blamed on this, with some claiming that it's due to the growth of Salafi-like Islam in Java, especially as this appears to be politically motivated. In other words, the agreement has been broken, and this is the price Indonesia must pay. Now, such agreements between humans and the paranormal are commonly believed to be the utmost of importance. Indeed, some say that this is the basis of intergenerational karma. There is some debate on when the 500 years elapsed, but surely it's by now, hence the constant suggestions that the breaking of the agreement is happening. Although one way of calculating the 500 years would suggest that it's within around a decade. And strangely, this concurs with other predictions of Armageddon, which are currently being promoted by the world's media. As I say, this is really a part of my belief system, but I see it more about greed and cruelty, and see it as nature rebalancing itself, what some describe as karma. Now, as I said before, that there is a suggestion that this is all a 19th century creation, or possibly a 20th century creation of a 19th century prediction. As this was shortly after what some see as a holy war between a Dutch colonist and Prince Diponegoro. Indeed, the suggestion that the myth was a creation of Dutch hegemony, as there is a literal link to the denial of Dutch atrocities during this holy war that I spoke of within this body of literature. It's even possible that it's an attempt to divide Islam between what today might be called Salafi elements and Kejawen. Hence, not only dividing Islam, but dividing the Javanese. So, is it all a part of divide and rule? Quite possibly. The story has been conflagrated with another story of Sheikh Subakir at Gunung Luwu. Candi Chetho at Gunung Luwu was restored by the New Order government in 1970 in another attempt to utilise this story for political gain. But this points to a connection with tantric beliefs amongst the Javanese, tantric beliefs which are said to have resisted new religions. So was this all an attempt to eradicate tantric beliefs, especially the left-handed path, which there's some evidence was dominant, if not in Java, certainly amongst its rulers? Certainly, despite Suharto himself practicing Kejawen, it was brutally suppressed during the New Order, And indeed, the two major Islamic groups in Java were used to suppress Kejawen followers. Keluarga Arif argues that Sheikh Sabakir or Sabdo Palon or Semar or even Naya Genggong legend really illustrates his battle with tantric left path practitioners. Indeed, he argues that Naya Genggong was a left-handed tantric priest, which would suggest that the idea of Semar's legacy being to remind us not to forget Buddhism is really not to forget tantric teachings. Again, this resonates with my experience, but it would be wrong to label all Tantra as left-handed. Nevertheless, Gunung Kemukus, you can see my vlog on Gunung Kemukus, I don't think I can say the word mountain. It's hard to believe much that is said about Gunung Tidar and the legends. Both commercial and political interests appear to obscure any truth which may exist. Now, in the past, I've spoken about hegemony and how we create our own reality. But should we ask to what degree such predictions shape our expectations and then become our reality? In other words, are all prophecies inherently self-fulfilling, especially if they're widely believed? Well, I really hope you've enjoyed this vlog. And if you have, can you help me out a little? Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and then you'll be notified of future vlogs. But also hit the like button and make a comment, because these seem to be what determine the YouTube algorithm, and I'm being really punished by it. So whatever help I can get from you is so appreciated. It really is. When I started this, I was going to do it this section, the real magic of Java. I was going to issue maybe every 2-3 months. Now it's happening maybe every 2 or 3 days. So yeah, if you hit the bell, you'll hear about it. And thank you so much.